This video is for anybody who feels like they're wasting time with God, or anyone who feels like time has been wasted in your life, whether that's from yourself or others. Maybe you were in a marriage and it ended badly and there was abuse and you're like, I wasted all of these years. Or maybe it's a job that went nowhere and it was a dead end and you're like, I wasted all of these years. Or maybe it's as simple as you've been waiting on God for something, health, finances, something, children, waiting on Him to get married, and you're like, I'm wasting all these years. Like, God's not coming through for me. I'm wasting years. And I want to speak to that because there's this beautiful verse in Joel, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about recently. And in Joel, it says that the Lord will restore to you the years the locust has eaten. But have you seen how it's written? Let me read it. So I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the crawling locust, the consuming locust, and the chewing locust, my great army, which I sent among you. That's a lot of different types of locusts, right? The one that crawls into your life, the unsuspecting, it crawls in, it doesn't just storm in. It's like an unsuspecting enemy that suddenly springs up and you feel like you've wasted all this time. Maybe you're in a relationship with a boyfriend and then all of a sudden, or a girlfriend, and you're like, God, how was I supposed to know that this is how this was going to end? And it's frustrating. The consuming locust, the one that just utterly consumes you, and you feel like you have all this baggage now and trauma that you have to really walk through and get over and grieve. And the chewing locust, the locust that just seems to chew you up and spit you out. So God didn't just say that He was going to restore the years that the swarming, let's say the enemy swarms you, all of your friends turn against you, that's a swarm. He's saying He's going to restore every type of loss that's come against you. That's what He's going to restore. But I want to speak to you about something, and that is that I saw a clip from a sermon yesterday. I didn't have time to watch the whole sermon, so I got about 10 minutes of it. But he said in this sermon that 10 hard years with God can be turned into 50 favored years when the Lord snaps His fingers and it's just turned for you. And my own life, at some point I'll have to do a video on this, on my childhood and just how hard and difficult that was. And then when I surrendered my life to Christ, that I had many hard years. Not just like a little bit hard, significantly hard. And the enemy was coming for me all the time. And friends were turning against me, and things were failing one after the other. Is how it felt. And there were so many years where I said, God, at what point does this turn around? At what point does this get better? And to hear that 10 hard years with God can be turned into 50 favored years, we need to know that. I want to show you something from Job. Job's life and experience. First of all, he had a very blessed life up to this one point in which it was extremely difficult, and the most difficult a person could maybe go through. You lose everybody except for your wife. You lose everything that you have. But this is what it says at the very end of Job, last chapter, verse 12. Now the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And at the bottom, verse 16, after this Job lived 140 years and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. So Job died old and full of days. When we walk with God, it's not easy. He never said it would be. But there are promises that come from obedience and trusting in him. Job's experience, according to many scholars, actually only lasted 9 months, like the hardship. But he was blessed in his former. And then had a trial and was blessed in his after. And that's what God wants us to take, is that if there's hardship, we walk through that with him. That we don't try to do that alone. We don't try to pretend like it's not there. And we don't lean in on other people, but that we go to him and we suffer it with him. I mean, Job's friends are a great example of that. Not everybody knows what God's doing and doesn't always have the wisdom he has. And when we walk the trials with him, we're going to be blessed greater in our later days than we are in our beginning days. So, all that to say that if you're struggling at all in any kind of place right now, and you're wondering, where is God in this? And you're wondering, what are you going to bless me? Like, bless me also, oh my God. The prayer of Jabez. Just remember that God redeems time. And anybody who walks with him, he's going to redeem the time for you. He is going to redeem the time for you. And he always gives back more than we lost. Always. With more gain, with more spiritual gain, more wisdom, more understanding, more knowledge, more just regardless of like the stuff that Satan took from you, right? Like regardless of children and marriage and housing and any of that, regardless of that gets added on to us. Seek him first and that will be added on to us. Because it doesn't say that only righteousness is but that he will add things to us. So, if you're in a place where you're like, God, this is so hard, and I've been doing this for so long, where are you? Go to him, struggle through it with him, and I promise you, your latter days are going to be blessed so much more than your former. And 10 hard years with him equals so many more great years. He is going to redeem the time for you. Your end is going to be better than your beginning.